Well. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ewood Park. Welcome to the Northwest. Norwich City have won here 2-0. It was 2-0. Yeah, I just have to remind myself of the scoreline to make it what was a very, very good Friday for the Canaries. It was a game that I felt, lots of other people felt, was an absolute must-win if they are to be successful in their quest to finish in the playoffs. Obviously, a win here for Blackburn today would have pushed them 7 points ahead of Norwich City. Um, as such, a win for Norwich City has pushed them right back into the race. They are now 1 point behind Blackburn Rovers, 6 games to go. The hunt is on, and it's on in pretty tremendous fashion. And I think, considering those circumstances, throw in the fact they lost their captain Grant Hanley to what looks like a pretty serious Achilles injury. I've seen him just in the foyer of Ewood Park on crutches with a protective boot. They're going to await a scan to see how bad that was. Ben Gibson limped off in the second half of a hamstring injury. I've also seen him floating in and around the Ewood Park tunnel. Didn't look to be any kind of support on his leg, but there was a fair bit of hopping, so I think it's fair to say that Monday's game might come a little bit too soon. You had Onel Hernandez at the full-time whistle. We knew that he's been nursing an injury. He had an ice pack on his ankle. All of these setbacks. They've also lost Kenny McLean to what is a fairly serious knee injury. He looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the regular season. Hopefully back for the playoffs if Norwich City get there. So throw all of that in, for all of that adversity, all of those setbacks in that David Wagner and his side have to contend with, and the composure, the control that they displayed in this performance was really, really good. And yes, the 3 points are absolutely massive in terms of the context of the season and where Norwich City find themselves. But actually, I think it's the performance that will be more beneficial to them. The control they exuded, the composure that they displayed, the ease at which they were able to shake off an opponent who is vying for a very similar outcome to them. All of these aspects make today a very, very pleasing result, and probably the best performance of the season, considering the adversity that was in it. And actually, the only real comparison we have to that is the Millwall win a few weeks ago. They obviously won that game 3-2, but that performance didn't have the same amount of control, poise, quality within it, actually. And obviously, since then, performances and results have been poor. This was another major step in the right direction. Of course, you have to caveat it with, like everything else now, it's about consistency. It's about backing it up. Really, really tight turnaround against a revamped Rotherham side fighting for their lives, although the win today may have just given them some breathing room in that particular race. So it's a big 3 points, but the question is at what cost? They've lost 3 senior players. They ended the game with Andrew Omobamidele and Jakob Sorensen playing as a centre-back pairing. Josh Sargent was playing slightly behind Temi Pukki. Sam McCallum was playing on the left wing. All of these aspects that you wrap into it make it all the more impressive. I didn't think they looked particularly defensively sound towards the end either, but obviously plenty of mitigation into that. But the headline is that they've won 2-0, and in a must-win game, in a game that everyone said if to keep this season alive, they needed to be able to achieve and to prove. That is all that matters, and that is the thing that those 1,800 plus Norwich City fans, plus all you guys watching at home, will take from this game. The fact that small, tiny bit of belief may have returned on the back of that performance, and that Norwich City are firmly back in the hunt with 6 to go, with a home game coming up on Monday. I think people, it's been a funny old season. It's impossible to predict, but this Norwich team is sticking around, and talk of rebuilds and disappointments and all that stuff can just wait for now. We're going to have to, it looks like we're going to be going the distance for this Norwich City side this season over whether or not they will get into the playoffs. And actually, when we get the other side of Middlesbrough, the last 4 games, you have to say, are relatively favourable if they want to put a run together to get themselves into the playoffs. And actually, there was talk before the Millwall game that Norwich City had timed a run to the playoffs. I feared they'd gone a little bit too soon. I think now is the point where if they can get momentum, if they can get some wind in their sails, if they can produce the level and quality of performance that we saw today, then they will end up in the top 6, and that has been the case all season. But it's the flip side of this performance and the flip side of this result that we've seen all too often as well, that sort of sluggishness, lethargic performance that's been littered throughout their campaign. Now it's about eliminating that, and you hope with the formula that they've uncovered today, they'll be able to do that and march on to what we all hope can be achieved in the final 6 games of this season. In terms of starting 11, Norwich City welcome back Onel Hernandez. Liam Gibbs had a new role in number 10, more about him in a moment. And the return to a 4-2-3-1, Marquinhos was on the right, Hernandez on the left, Josh Sargent got the nod as the number 9 with Gibbs behind him. It was Sorensen and Sarah axis, and then the same back four that was the case last year. It's been a long season, but not that long. Last week against Sheffield United. And I think what we saw was Onel Hernandez gives them balance, gives them threat, gives them pace, gives them power, injects something different into their attacking play. But actually the way they were set up, and it has been the case that Norwich City were assembling a side that would be very good on the counter in transitions. I think we saw that today. Blackburn had more possession, but weren't able to really cut through Norwich City. They were quite blunt. They lacked movement at points. They lacked penetration. They lacked ideas, actually, through some of their possessional play, which kind of left them down really tight ends and really dead ends at points. What they did try and do was place the ball in behind that kind of space on either flank, behind the centre or behind the fullback. And I felt Ben Gibson did a really good job, particularly on this left side, snuffing that out in the first half. Just killed all the kind of pace and momentum that they were trying to get out of that attack. And also on the right side as well, they did a good job of halting that. And they didn't really have the tools in central areas to unpick what was a pretty compact Norwich. And I think Jakob Sørensen gives them a really nice bit in midfield. And obviously the ramifications of this result and of Grant Hanley and Ben Gibson's injuries are likely that he is going to now have a run at centre-back. But in midfield, he gives them balance. He's not one that wants to commit himself forward. So positionally, he allows Sarah a little bit more freedom, as we will go on to see in the second half. But it was just a Norwich team that felt better sort of set up, felt better balanced, felt strategically and tactically a lot better. And I think it's no surprise that Onel Hernandez returns. We see wingers in their natural position, Josh Sargent as a lone striker, a number 10, the addition of another midfielder in those central areas. And I think they were able to really dominate transitions because of that, and dominate what they were able to do when the ball was turned over. And that gave them some really exciting attacking opportunities where they could create overloads, where Onel Hernandez could use his pace. And at this level, people are absolutely terrified of him, I feel. And we obviously saw in the second half that now he's added that end product to his game to tee up Gabriel Stara for what was a wonderful goal. But the first one, I think, is really well crafted. It's a long ball forward. Josh Sargent does really well to keep it alive, actually. And then Jakob Sørensen, who just adds a bit of ballast, adds a bit of kind of coolness into Norwich's midfield. Just sweeps the ball into Gibbs, who had so much energy. There was a lot of third man running from him today behind the lines, and actually a lot of really good runs that caused problems for Blackburn's back line. He got in behind. I don't think he was really looking or thinking that much. I think it was just a case of, I need to see how far I can get and then strike it. And I spoke to him afterwards, and it was very much a case of, I didn't see the ball hit the back of the net. I was on the floor, but it was a wonderful finish for his first senior goal, obviously since arriving at the club from Ipswich Town. It's worth saying as well that during his days at Ipswich, he was a more attacking midfielder. Since David Wagner's come in, that's been the role that he's looked to deploy him in. I think it's raised a few eyebrows, but today I felt we saw the best of him in a central position. He's got the legs and the energy to support attacks, but also to kind of exploit space as well and give Norwich a threat beyond the ball, which is something that's been lacking at points in recent games because they haven't had that central presence. You've had sort of players who have been dropping and looking for the ball, and I think what he gave them was actually a natural kind of depth to their shape that allowed them to kind of stay high alongside Sargent, and if Sargent drops, he would go beyond. And if Sargent did drop, as was the case for the opening goal, he would often take a centre-back with them. So there was that space to exploit. Very simplistic, kind of short-long relationship there, but one that Norwich really benefited from. And his energy and enthusiasm and running capabilities gave Norwich an added edge when combined with Hernandez's kind of pace, power, unpredictability, ball-carrying abilities. There were points where both players got Norwich City up the pitch, which is, again, a characteristic that we've not seen in their attacking play too often this season. And they gave them a real edge on the counter-attack, and that was really, really positive, and something that certainly is a formula, if they can keep Onel Hernandez fit and nurse him through the next few days, will hopefully stand them in good stead moving forward, because I think Liam Gibbs, we've seen this season, is a talented footballer, is a versatile footballer. I think he can play any of those roles in midfield. It will be interesting to give him a run at number 10 and see what he can do. And actually, I think that could be a successful formula moving forward as well. And then from there, it was about managing it. Angus Gunn didn't really have a save to make in the opening 70 minutes of this game. It panned out a little bit differently. Norwich then, as they did 11 minutes into the first half, struck again 11 minutes into the second. turnover in the centre of the pitch. Onel Hernandez gets set away on the left. And again, I do think this debate around him not having an end product has been slightly exaggerated for quite a long period of time. Actually, you look at the numbers, he creates the most amount of shots for players. So I think actually the reason we haven't seen him rake up assists in the numbers that he's doing at the moment is because of the quality of the finishing rather than the quality of the end product. But I totally accept the verdict that some people have reached. At some points, he didn't lift his head up in key moments. He wasn't willing to use his weaker foot in moments to kind of try and find players. And we are seeing a renewed composure and quality in the final third as well. And that was true again. Lovely pass to Gabriel Sara, who, to be honest, has absolutely no right to find the top corner from where he does. A player that is capable of producing unbelievable moments of magic and match-winning moments of magic. We saw it a few weeks ago at Millwall with that quality turn and finish. This was pure power. I think nobody in the stadium was expecting him to shoot, including Stephen Pearce in the Blackburn, sorry, been a long day. And to pick out the top corner with the quality and the pace of the shot was unbelievable. It's an unbelievable strike. I think I'd rank that. No, I probably wouldn't rank it above his Millwall one, but it's definitely a close second. Two quality finishes today from Norwich, but created by runs beyond, and that's something that perhaps we haven't seen because the space hasn't been there in recent weeks for them to do it. I think it suited Norwich that Blackburn wanted more of the ball today. They were happy to let them have it and to try and hit them on the counter. They were set up to do that a lot better. I still think we need to see a little bit more from Marquinhos. Sargent did a kind of selfless role without really threatening too much. But I think overall Norwich defended well today. Beyond that final 20 minutes where they lost Hanley and Gibson and lost a little bit of their structure, and that created opportunities. Angus Gunn made it was a wonderful touch to deny. I think it was Sam Gallagher who was running onto the ball at that point. It looked like a cert tap in. Barris and Diaz had an opportunity as well from Gallagher's cross, chested it past Omid Mamadeli. Fierce shot of the near post. Gunn produced a good save. So as a collective, this was a really, really good performance. A marked improvement from the four that have gone before it. But it's just a step. And now, obviously, with the adversity, with the injuries, they've got to get back on the coach and they've got to go again on Monday and they've got to produce a consistent performance. If they can get 3 points against Rotherham, I think that's going to be tough. Then I think most people will look at it as a corner turn. Then we head to Middlesbrough next Friday in completely different spirits, as is the race of this season. It's been so up and down, so hard to judge. I think it's not worth getting carried away, but they have reinstated some belief in what they're doing at this moment in time. And that was needed given where we all were. And that was a performance that was needed and that hopefully they can learn from. 3 points here today, hopefully not an expensive cost to two really bad injuries. Certainly Grant Hanley's, Kenny McLean obviously set for a spell on the sidelines as well. But for me, performance of the season, and I'd be really interested to hear your thoughts on that as well. Of course, reaction from David Wagner will be across our channels. We'll also have some Liam Gibbs as well, and reaction across the weekend, plus then build up to Rotherham on Monday at Carrow Road for what is shaping up to be a really, really big game there. The playoff race is well and truly on. Park talk of rebuilds, Park talk of anything else. Norwich City are in the hunt, and I think they're going to stay there until the end of the season. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again extremely soon.